Hi YouTube. Today I'm gonna upgrade the glass on the Harbor Freight sandblast cabinet that I have modified for vapor blasting or vapor honing. The trouble with the original setup is it comes with two parts. It's a piece of 1/8 inch glass that sits underneath a piece of 3/16 inch plexiglass. Another issue is to change out the glass. Should you need to do so, it's necessary to undo all of these little bolts from the top and to remove the trim to then get at the glass. The problem with the way that it comes from the factory is it's not very easy to get at all of these nuts by yourself unless you have long arms. If you have shorter arms, you're going to need either a second person to hold the screwdriver up top while you loosen these nuts from the bottom, and that's part of the issue. So what happens with, so why do you need to replace this glass? Well, as you use this system, what happens is dust and particles of sand and glass bead will start to accumulate on the bottom. It will eventually dull the glass, and the glass will need to be replaced. If you're sandblasting, this will happen at a much faster rate. Another issue that is with this, the way that this comes from the factory, is that piece of plexiglass that they provide as a protective piece that sits above the 1/8 inch glass scratches very easily. If you can look here, all you have to do is just wipe this once and it will start to look like this. And there is no getting these scratches off unless you're constantly buffing this plexiglass. If you have a compound wheel with some buffing compound, then you can buff out these scratches. But that, to me, it's a lot of hassle. In all honesty, I think this either needs to be one sheet of 1/4 inch glass, or at the very least, a piece of glass on top. What I've done and what I've seen a lot of YouTube videos recommend is going out to Home Depot and picking up a piece of glass, having them cut it. If you're so fortunate to have a Home Depot that offers this service, then have them cut it for you. In my case, Home Depot sells the glass, but they do not cut it. So I'll be cutting my own glass, and I'll show you guys how I do it. You want to start off by taking this trim piece off. You're going to need a screwdriver for the top and maybe a little socket for the nuts that go on the bottom. Once you take those off, pull that frame off and be careful that that top piece of glass or the bottom piece of glass doesn't slide off and break, because there's nothing holding it on there except for the gasket material and the pressure of this trim on the top. So I've already taken my trim already loose. I'm going to go ahead and set the camera down, pull it off, and then I'll switch over to the work table where I'll show you the materials you're going to need. Okay, these are the parts that you're going to need to do this job. You're going to need a clear sheet of glass, 24 inches by 36 inches, 3/32 thickness. For the bolts, you're going to be using these number 10 by 32 by 1 inch. This one is a pack of 6. It comes with the nuts. You're going to need 12. So you're going to need 2 packs of 6 of these nuts and bolts. Next thing you're going to need, some Everbuilt wing nuts. Again, 10 by 32. They come in a pack of 4. You're going to need 12. So that's 3 packs. Lastly, something that we're going to use as a gasket to keep water and sand from getting through those bolt holes. This is going to be a little neoprene washer. Kind of hard to tell here. Let's get my hand out of the way. So little neoprene washers. They're 3/16 inch. It's a 4-pack. You're going to need 3 packs. Total cost for me was $25.09. That's including taxes here in Texas. Taxes may be a little bit different in your state. I'll go ahead and put the links up to all these individual parts in the description. That way you guys can do this upgrade yourself. Also, if you would please, it would really help me out to grow this channel and provide more videos. Consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up, and like the video and comment. To set up your piece of glass so that you can cut it properly, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need a firm surface for it to be on. What I recommend you doing is just cut away the plastic that's on top of the piece of glass that you got from Home Depot. Just leave it on top of the cardboard. You don't need to take it off the cardboard. And go ahead and mark out with a tape measure where your line needs to be, your cut line. So we've got a cut line on this side, and we got a cut line on this other side over here at the end, right here. And what I'm going to use as a guide is this little piece of scrap wood. It's about, I would say, just 3/8 of an inch maybe. So 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to use this glass cutter here. You can get these at Home Depot. Kind of hard to focus. And they come with this little ball on the end for tapping. I'll show you what that's for later. And the idea is I'm going to set my spacer to be just to the left of the cut line so that the blade of this tool will ride along where it needs to cut, and use this piece of wood as the guide. One thing also that's important is this wood is going to want to slide around on this piece of glass. What you can do, fortunately we're using these little neoprene washers. What you could do is put a neoprene washer over here, put one maybe somewhere in the middle, like that, and then one on the end over here. So then we're going to put our piece of wood on top of those, measure the proper distance, and then I'm gonna clamp it down using a couple of clamps. I'm gonna put the camera down, clamp it up, and then I'll come back and show you how we're gonna cut this. Okay, here it is all clamped up. Now it's very important, remember guys, this is glass, so you don't want to clamp this down so hard that you crack this, but you want to have enough pressure on it that this little guide is not going to move around on you. The idea here is it's going to be one continuous score all the way across to the other side. You cannot go back and rescore it. This possibly could be free-handed if you wanted to just draw the line and follow it. However, I like straight lines, and whenever possible, if I can cut a straight line, I'll tend to use a guide. If you've never cut glass before, you may want to think twice about trying this. It does take a little practice to get it right. Fortunately, with this big piece of glass, if you do screw up one piece, you have several opportunities maybe to get it right. I'm going to try to do this on the first try. Hopefully I can make it happen. All right, I'm going to set you guys down on the tripod, and we'll get going. All right, now that that part's done, what you want to do next is you're going to turn the piece of glass over. And contrary to popular belief, the glass, if you try to break it with it facing this way, it's not gonna break because you're going opposite the crack. So the side that you score is going to be the side that opens up. So picture you've created this little divot right here, right, with my fingers where they meet. So you created this little divot with the scoring tool. What you want to do is you want to flip it over. So then what you're going to do is once you put pressure from the backside, this little thing will give, and then the glass will crack all the way through. So let me go ahead and flip this glass around. I'll go ahead and set up the tripod again. That way you guys can see how it cracks. Now before I flip the glass over, I wanted to show you guys the score line. You can see it here. And this is just with the tool, just putting enough pressure. You'll hear it as you're moving the tool across. You'll hear it making like little glass cracking sounds. You don't want to put too much pressure on it, but you want to put enough pressure on it that as you're moving the tool across, you're hearing that little glass noise of the crunching glass. All right, let me flip it over and I'll set the tripod back up. The next step is once you flip the glass over, make sure that you're using some type of a soft material that will allow the glass to give a little, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting pressure, slight pressure on each one of these sides of the glass, just a little bit, while we tap it with the ball end of the glass cutting tool. As you can see, the score line, this score line is on the opposite side, okay? So this side here is smooth. It does not have the score line. There's no score line on this side. It's on the other side. And as we push down here, what we're doing is we're putting pressure on that score line, and then along with the tapping, you'll start to see it develop the crack. Now, it may not show up on video because I'm going to set it on the tripod, but hopefully you guys can see the process that's needed to get this thing to crack. Guys, make sure you have some kind of eye protection when you're doing this, in case you got any glass that chips up. You don't want it getting in your eye. So just go ahead and put some pressure down with your two fingers, one on each side of the score line, and start tapping. That's it, guys. You see? That's all you got to do. So there it is. So there you got your piece of glass, nice straight line. This is the piece that we're replacing. So this is the old plexiglass piece. That's the new glass piece. So there you have it right there. What we're going to be doing next is we're going to be using the those 10 by 32 screws and the rubber washers. So here they are here. What we're going to do is we're going to put the screw in from the bottom through the hole, and then this neoprene washer is going to go on top to hold it, to keep it from falling back down, because this thing fits tight over the threads. See? All right, let me go ahead and start them up, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, next part, we're going to be using these nuts. So go ahead and put these nuts down on top of those washers, and then we're going to have to modify the trim. We'll do that next. All right, guys, I'm going to save the last one so I can see how much we need to modify that trim to get it to fit back over these little nuts that we just added. What we want to do first is, before we drill the hole out any bigger, because that'll just make it more difficult for us, is let's go ahead and countersink the other side. All right. These originally were designed to go flat up against the cabinet, but since we're adding now this nut, we're going to need to countersink this little sleeve down by at least the thickness of this nut. What I'm going to use to do that is a 1/2 inch paddle bit. All right, once you got them all drilled, make sure that there's enough space for the nut and the washer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the nut down in there, and then I'm going to drop the little rubber washer there. So there you can see. So that's the idea. That's what you want it to look like. Oh, let's see if I can get this thing to focus. So that's what you want it to look like right there. You want it to be flush. So when you look at it from the side, it's flat. Okay, so this is the next step. Since the screws that we're replacing are smaller than the 10 by 30 seconds, we're going to need to drill these holes out a little bit bigger. So what we're going to use for that is 7/32. That'll give us enough of a gap to have a certain amount of play. That way we can realign this to the new bolts that are coming through. That way we can fasten it down. Right now, you would have to force them on, and since each bolt may be slightly off or tilted to one side or another, you need to have a little bit of a gap. That way you can move this thing around so that they'll all line up. Let's go ahead and set this thing up on the drill. I'll set you guys on the tripod, and then we'll drill these out real quick. All right, guys, this is the last one I'm going to put on. So again, you need the nut, the washer, little rubber washer, and then the bolt. So nut, washer, bolt. And then to snug it down, you're just going to snug it down with a 3/8 socket, and you can just do this finger tight. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to crank it down or anything, just tight enough to keep it from wiggling around. Just finger tight, guys, just finger tight. All right, now we're going to test fit our piece. Last thing is, let's go ahead and put our piece of glass in there. You want to make sure that these two surfaces are very clean. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, clean these two surfaces up real well, and then we'll go ahead and put the glass on. One thing that you could do to the glass if you want it really clean is use some cleaner wax. That'll get any hard water spots. It'll also leave behind a nice thin film of car wax that will allow water to just run off real easy. So I'm going to go ahead and treat it with this stuff, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, to get this thing to line up perfectly, on the bottom, you're going to have to stick something in there. I'm just going to use this little wire tie to push the glass up so that the bottom edge of the plastic frame catches it. All right, next up are the wing nuts. This is what we want to use. We're going to secure it with the wing nuts. Remember, you don't have to crank these down or anything, just snug. That's it, guys. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the glass real good on the inside, and then I'll give you guys another final shot of what it looks like after it's been cleaned up. Let's check it out. So there's how nice we can see inside. It's all real clear. Now I can put the camera down on the glass, and you guys can get a real clear shot of what's going on. So anyway, there you got it. The little wing nuts, just hand tight. If you notice, there's no gap. So there's no gap there. It's up against their flush. And that's how you swap out the glass on a Harbor Freight sandblasting cabinet, whether you use it for sandblasting or vapor honing. The process is exactly the same. All right, guys, if you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, turn on the notification bells for future video alerts, and see you next time. Take care.